So when you look at this word passion and you put this dash under next to pass, and then after I it becomes pass I on. And this is a word that it really got to me about a decade or so ago in terms of what does this actually mean? Because often when we look at the word passion, we think about personal fulfillment. We think about sharing it and teaching it. We look at, okay, well, I'm here to really live according to my passions, which is really about inspiring myself, but we don't often think about passing it on to inspire others. Hello, everybody. This is Shivani, your host. Today, I'm going to be talking about this word passion. You know that this is a word that I'm passionate about, but in a recent TED talk that I did, I talked about breaking this word down. And I talked about breaking it down into pass I on. So when you look at this word passion and you put this dash under next to pass, and then after I it becomes pass I on. And this is a word that it really got to me about a decade or so ago in terms of what does this actually mean? Because often when we look at the word passion, we think about personal fulfillment. We think about sharing it and teaching it. We look at, okay, well, I'm here to really live according to my passions, which is really about inspiring myself. But we don't often think about passing it on to inspire others. But I've wondered, is it really my responsibility to pass on that energy and idea? And I've come to the answer being yes. I believe that when I pass it on, then I'm actually trying to have impact onto others so that there is a collective growth. There's a growth in consciousness around that. And I believe that when we talk about legacy and leaving a legacy behind, that legacy really starts with sharing and hence pass I on. So every small act of whether you've got knowledge that you want to share, whether it's kindness that you want to share, whether it's inspiration that you want to share, it's only when it's shared that it contributes to a bigger legacy. Legacy is really about that impact on other people. And so it's important how mentors and leaders and creators can build their legacies by what they pass on. This podcast is really designed for leaders and entrepreneurs. And so, as a leader or entrepreneur listening to this in a business, think about what are some of the things that you could do to build that legacy so that you can pass I on as well. And when we talk about purpose, a lot of people talk to me about well, purpose versus passion. You know, sometimes purpose without passion can feel a bit fleeting. And I often talk about that your passion is like your fuel or your electricity in a car if you've got an electric vehicle, but your purpose is really the vehicle in itself. And you need both in for order to be able to make that. And when you align your passion, that's linked into the pass I on and into a greater cause, then it becomes more meaningful. It becomes also something that can be a lot more enduring. For example, some of the passions that I've got, they'll probably take me a whole lifetime to work on. And even when I pass, I'm hoping that I would have made a pretty big dent in it, but it may not actually have fully realized. In fact, one of them, which is about eliminating abuse of children globally, I know that that's not something that I'm going to be able to end in my cycle, but I want to make that dent in there. And there's also this ripple effect that passion has. When we come across somebody that's really passionate, whether it's about their health or their business or their family or whatever aspect of their life, there's always a ripple effect that they leave. So when we can pass I on to others, we also create a ripple. We drop that, bit of water that starts to create that ripple because passion is infectious. And it can create an impact far beyond what we physically see, what the eye can actually see. The other thing I've been thinking about that I wanted to share on this particular podcast is this notion that, we've got to teach things. And I come across people that say, I'm not quite ready. In fact, recently I was shortlisted to teach a particularly very transformational program. And when I looked at that particular program and some of the people that were already shortlisted, and then they were going to pick a couple of leaders out of that, I remember thinking, I'm not sure if I'm quite ready. And I remember one of the people who were the leaders in that said, hey, what's the hesitancy you at? And I said, I'm not sure I've got enough experience here. I'm just still trying to work out whether I can really have an impact around that. And they said something to me that really stuck with me. They said, you know what? Sometimes you've got to teach something what you've got to learn. And I've heard that saying before. Sometimes we have to teach what we want to learn. So teaching can also be that act of legacy, that passing on. So whether you're teaching life lessons or your values, every time there is an opportunity for us to teach, there is an opportunity for us to build that legacy. And there's so many things that we can create through passion, whether it's businesses, art, books, innovations. One of the things we want to do is we want to pass that passion onto the future generations. And the young people that are coming through now, I mean, thank goodness so many of them are impacted by how they can help the planet. I wish my generation had been more aware of that, and perhaps we wouldn't have got into some of the challenges that we've got around our planet and our globe and global warming, etc. The other part is, when we look at pass on, is the role of the community, because legacy is never built alone. So how can we collaborate with people? How can we share that vision and amplify that vision so that we can actually be able to pass that on? And I always look at passion as an energy transfer. When I meet really passionate people, they leave that energy transfer on me. And I hope that when I have those interactions with people, they leave that on there. So as a leader or an entrepreneur, I want to ask you this. When are you transferring energy? When are you transferring your passion as an energy transfer with your employees, with your colleagues, maybe if you report to a board, maybe if you're part of an executive team? How are you actually passing and creating and passing that energy transfer to people? And then let's take that on the home front, because we don't want to just do this in our workplaces. How do you also do that at home? What energy are you taking when you come home at the end of the day? Passion is, contagious because it's an emotional energy. And when you think about even the word emotion, emotion is energy in motion, emotion, energy in motion. And so what is it that we can pass to others? What can we do to help inspire others? And what can we do to help others transform? And there's lessons to be passed on. I think we can equally learn as much from our failures and things that didn't work well as our successes. Our kind of society is a bit more hardwired to go, I know that, when I get an introduction to do a speaking engagement, nobody talks about my failures. They say, she's written this many books, she started this many businesses. Nobody looks at the businesses that I've failed, and I've failed a couple of them. One of them, that was a pretty big, monumental failure. And so our society is really wired in terms of talking about people's successes. But to me, I think there's so many lessons to pass on to people from our failures. And that's something we can pass on as well. Because it's not till you fail, you start to see where you went wrong. And, the mistakes that I made in a particular business, which was a kids' play centre that had food and coffee and a bunch of other services associated with it, I realized that I did some things very, very wrong. For example, I thought I did a good due diligence, but since then, and different businesses that I've started and exited, I learned so much from that very expensive, very stressful, very energy zapping experience from that as well. And I think the last point that I wanted to leave you with is really to really think about that passion and pass on as a responsibility. We need to take responsibility to creating value for others. So when I'm working with clients, I think, how can I create some more value for them? When you're passing it on, you don't just want to say, hey, I've got some experience and then I want to pass this on. You want to take that true passion that comes from, not from self-interest, but wanting to serve others. And that's the part that you also want to pass on. So it was a slightly different way of looking at passion in this particular podcast today. As I said, I recently had that in a TED talk that I gave, and I wanted to share that and go a bit more deeply into that. I hope that some of it, or one of those points that I spoke about today, resonated with you. I really look forward to that, and any ideas that you have around how we can help have the Passion Institute podcast reach more people or have topics that we can cover, that would be incredible. And we always, always appreciate you taking a moment to rate and review the podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us on the Passion Institute podcast. If today's episode sparked a new idea or inspired you to maybe take some action or helped you see a business in a new light, we would love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe. It really helps us present a great show. Leave a review and share this episode with other fellow entrepreneurs and leaders who also are ready to make an impact. Remember, passion is the fuel for greatness, and every step you take brings you closer to your vision. Keep dreaming big, leading with purpose, and making waves in the world. Until next time, stay passionate, stay inspired, and keep building your legacy. This is your host, Shivani, and signing on from the Passion Institute podcast. See you soon.